certainly start by approving the minutes from last week's meeting, or last month's meeting, yep. And Rochelle?
No problem.
Okay. Mark?
I
You wrote them,
I wrote them, so I can't really complain.
and I reviewed them, and I approved the minutes.
And we do have a quorum.
And
so
we have a quorum, yep, and
So
I think Agenda 2, public forum. Do we have a public forum?
well, we have a public.
We have a public.
Part of why I came. All right. Sutton Historical Commission. My name is Reverend Donald McKinnon, and I reside at 659 Central Turnpike. I have the privilege of serving as the pastor of Legacy Church, also known as the First Baptist Church of Sutton. This congregation holds the distinction of being the oldest active Baptist church in Worcester County, and is celebrating its 290th birthday this year. I will also serve as a member of the Sutton Housing Production Plan Group. As both a historian and a member of this vibrant community, I had the opportunity to view the Commission's meeting on February 25th, during which there was a thoughtful discussion regarding the preservation of historic structures within our town. I would like to offer a few reflections in light of that conversation. As the current steward of a historic building myself, I can attest to the challenges associated with its maintenance and preservation. Despite efforts to secure funding through grants and preservation programs, many of these resources have become increasingly limited or are being directed elsewhere. This reality presents a significant challenge for those of us committed to maintaining the architectural and historic legacy of our town. In my role with the HPP group, we have had an ongoing discussion about the importance of the Community Preservation Act, which the town of Sutton voted to adopt nearly 2 decades ago. Currently, the HPP is exploring meaningful strategies to address the town's housing needs while also protecting its rural and historic character, an effort that aligns closely with the mission of the Historical Commission. With this in mind, I would like to encourage the Commission to engage in the upcoming public forums hosted by the HPP. These sessions will be designed to foster dialogue around the new housing production plan and possible establishment of a CPA committee, an initiative that could provide valuable support for historic preservation efforts in Sutton. If preservation is a shared priority, as your recent discussion suggests, then this is a timely and important opportunity. I welcome to hear your voice in this conversation and look forward to seeing how our shared goals might move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Mark, anything to add?
No, I mean, I think that's sort of
Yeah.
as stated, that does fit, what we're looking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking into doing.
I'm going to back up.
A little feedback here.
I apologize for coming in late.
Paul,
Sweaty and dirty right from work.
you look good.
What I did hear sounded very good,
Yeah,
though.
absolutely.
I agree. Great to see some public forum, too. First thing I thought of when I walked in the door. Wow, public cares.
I think it has an important aspect of being the first Baptist church in the Worcester County. Is this what you said?
It's currently the oldest active, so.
Active, okay.
So probably the first ones have closed, but we're the current oldest kid on the block.
Yeah. That's a
Good.
long legacy. You said 290 years? Yeah, that's outstanding.
That one's 300. We're celebrating 305 this year.
That's another one.
Yeah, I walked in
Yeah, I would say it's certainly within our jurisdiction to join hands with you and, discuss that, further, for sure. Thank you. Public hearing? Is that that was a public forum,
Yeah, no,
public hearing?
no hearing.
No hearing. Board business. Do we have any board business to attend to?
No new business.
No new business. Old business. I see we're going to revisit our demolition review bylaw. And I think that goes well with what we've already discussed. We all had some homework. Did anybody kind of look into it? And
I went to Douglas and spoke with the administrator there, Matt Wojcik, about demolition, how they went about it, and he said they just have a generic plan type thing that's been put out by the state that we've all read type thing, and they have had no issues that he knows of, and he hasn't heard any vibes of anything in the past. What they do is just, decide on a building, something that has to be just taken down, and they make it known to the public, and they haven't had any vibes from anybody that they don't want it done, so they go and do it. If anything comes up, then they'll, look into the situation.
I can say my brain has bounced around lots of different thoughts.
Yeah.
And not in depth on any of them, but I was thinking, is our horse before the cart? We have to define. I feel like we almost have to define our goal to help define what we need to achieve. I think so. That was one thought. My brain was trickling down, and I was looking at some of that stuff on different towns. So our goal, is there a certain categories, a certain age, a certain district? There's a lot of different things that I was thinking about we need to define. And then another path I was going down was, I just was reading in the town of Bolton, they actually have it falls under the planning board, interestingly enough, but it's, rather than taking down old garages, carriage houses, barns, they have a special permit for converting them into another use, which, again, I thought that was very interesting, and like I said, I've been seeing things and getting distracted, going all these different directions. And then I do know that, as I think I mentioned before, like the Newton, they have a set age. Any house older than 50 years has to at least get a check mark when they file for a building permit, whether if they're altering it. That seems a little drastic, maybe, for us. But so anyway, I am all over the place. Nothing really helpful, probably. But
So in my digging around, I noticed that the further west you go, the less demolition bylaw towns you see. And, that map has been in a couple of different presentations done that the Mass Historical Commission has done. Which I thought that was sort of interesting. The other thing is almost every one of those bylaws is a boilerplate of the template that that Mass Historic Commission provides. So almost everybody has sort of the same rules or setting, but I have a copy of the template. It certainly would be easy enough to adapt to make things of interest, to what we want, what we might want to present. There was another presentation that actually, I believe, either Donna or Keith brought to to our attention a few years back, actually, that, you know, that talks about how you can factor in, you know, doing, you know, salvage clauses, so that, you know, if somebody is demolishing a building and there's no way around it, to at least use facilities that will salvage the, you know, the old beams, the old, you know, woodwork, things like that you can have a, you know, considerable cost savings over just demolition. Plus, it's a lot more, you know, environmentally sound or responsible. And it also looks like there's some tax credit incentives and stuff in doing some of this stuff too, which, you know, make it worth reviewing that presentation and see, you know, I felt it gave us some maybe some useful tools to make things sound more palatable.
Yeah.
In general, it's like, oh, there's something in this for me, is always good, you know, versus you can't do that, or type of attitude.
Yeah.
And none of this really gives us that type of, you know, Mass Historic, you know, doesn't really have any teeth either. They can make suggestions, but they can't force you to do anything, you know, you know, pretty much any more than we as a commission can. But the idea is just to make people aware of things, and hope that most people are interested in preserving things that are worth preserving. I found another thing that I found that we probably should have paid more attention to, is there's a significant number of properties, et cetera, that are registered with Mass Historic Commission as, you know, as historic or places of relevance. Just as an example, I had mentioned in the last meeting you know, the drive-in, Sutton Drive-in, and how the gate, you know, the entryway there was registered, as were three other, or there was a total of three parcels in that property that were registered with the state's historic data, you know, property database. Things that are registered with the state, if they're coming up for change, we're supposed to notify the state 30 days in advance of anything, so that we are supposed to notify them of any changes coming to that. They will review it within 30 days and make recommendations as to whether they feel, you know, you should do something, or it's like, yep, okay, let it go type of thing. As I said before, it would have been nice to at least have kept the Art Deco entryway, because it would have caused no change to their construction plans at all.
It would be part of the landscape.
Yeah, and we could have preserved that.
The asphalt's still there.
Yeah, they literally just knocked the standing structure down. But it's something we should, you know, we should be paying more attention to when projects are going through planning board or whatever, to just bounce it past them, you know, Marcus, and make sure that if the property is registered, then we make necessary, you know, inform them that that's there, and again, it's not going to cause anything but at least you've got, another agency that at least is going to add to, should you try and keep this or not? And, they can offer suggestions on how it could be preserved, which, again, they can ignore. But, it's a tool. It's a tool that we should be using.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Let's see. I think the last piece I had in relation to my homework was we do have a number of historic districts. We weren't sure exactly the count. The count is maybe 6.
Maybe.
Well, there's one. I thought there were 6. Checking with the town website, 5 are there, and one is marked as in progress, but I don't know if that's up to date or not. And I wasn't able to before this meeting, and that's the Village of Manchog, which I thought was
The last
complete.
one we did, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't involved in that, but Wally Baker had said something to the
it
effect
was.
that it was done,
It
and the
happened
next one we
before
were
my
looking
tenure
into was,
as well.
Wilkes.
So, but I had always thought that had been completed, but that's still, in the town's site, it's still marked as in progress.
We should,
So-
I think that definitely was done from my recollection, so we should probably notify who,
Well, we should find out for sure
yeah,
if it's, if it was completed, and then make or have the necessary
Keith,
changes.
Wally, because
Yeah.
both of them I know worked on that.
But the ones that are complete is Sutton Center, which is a National Register district. West Sutton, which is a National Historic District. The Blackstone Canal National Historic District runs through a portion of Sutton. So it's down towards the Millbury line there. So that section is there. It's across from the meat packing plant there.
that Grafton, Millbury line.
Yeah. And Free Grace Marble Farm, of course, is a National Historic District. And Waters Farm is a National Register property. And then, of course, Village of Manchog is whatever, it was a National Register nomination is the only thing I have official at this point.
Well, without having a piece of paper in front of me, I am not only sure that went through, but then we even started to discuss like what the next one would be,
Mm-hmm.
and that we were gonna not go forward on the next year. So like, I don't have a piece of paper telling me, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's
Yeah, I completely agree,
okay.
but there's got to be something that
Somewhere, something.
that officially states that it was complete. So it would be good to run that down. I can see if I can, find out more. I just kind of ran out of time on that one. But yeah, I think that's basically what. I think a lot of us found the same presentations and the same documents when we were looking at existing bylaws. I know
Yeah.
both both Chris and I came up with the same PowerPoint
Same map.
presentations. Jim and I came up with the same draft document, which is interesting reading if you haven't gone through that. That's probably the newest bit of information, which is spearheaded by the Mass Historic Commission as well. But it's just that was dated 2023, so and it's a draft document that proposes some guidelines for preserving historical properties within your towns or cities. Jim had provided a link to it in an email the end of last month. So I would, if you didn't look at it, I would suggest
Was that,
reading through it.
was that the email where he said he could not make it
Yes.
to the next meeting? Okay.
Yes. And, but, yeah. Oh, the other thing, the last bit, I know I said it was last a minute ago, but the last thing is you had, at the end of the last meeting, Chris, you had mentioned the distinction between national register districts and local historic districts. And there is a difference. The local historic district has, for lack of a better term, more teeth. The national one, it's great, but it can't really enforce any rules. Whereas the local ones have the ability to enforce the rules through their own planning boards, et cetera.
Correct, yeah.
So there's a few other differences between them, but there's a little flyer that that Mass Historic published that calls it out, but I think that's the most significant is the where the power to enact any rules exists is more at the local level.
Yeah, with the people of the town.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
And so, much like you, Mark, I went through kind of probably the same documents, the stuff you can find. I dug through, I kind of looked at some demographics and towns similar to the size of Sutton in population that have demolition delay bylaws. I found Lunenburg, fairly close, Worcester County, Sturbridge, and Upton. And they're all very, very, very similar, same template. Of course, like, the definitions are different. There's various definitions of demolition. And I know, Paul, you mentioned it, is replacing windows demolition. It probably is in Concord and in Newton.
Mm-hmm. In
It's
certain areas.
certainly not in Lunenburg. Lunenburg kind of, demolition is defined as the act of pulling down, destroying, removing, razing a building or structure. Very simple. A little different, say, in Upton. And again, slightly different in Sturbridge, say. Some of these significant buildings, they define them as 100 years old or older, and I believe Lunenburg might be 75 years. They are what I think what we want, or what the town wants. What's important to the town, I think, should be important to the commission. And if, like you said, if the town wants it, if the town wants to preserve its heritage and its history and its buildings, then I think we owe it to them to work towards doing that. And, we can come up with our own, what's important to the town. Is it a 100-year-old building? Is it 150? I mean, everything, I think, in this town's at least 100 years old at this point, Not everything, but.
I know a few that are.
But yeah, but again,
few, and
like,
they're getting
like
less.
local historic districts, like you said, like, if the town wants to do that, then they vote on it. We figure that out. I mean, yeah, that's where the work is, and.
Yeah. And I think.
I would also think, like, so, you define a building, I mean, my guess is that, like, in Concord, you can't touch a wall.
Well, so there's
Um,
percentage of exterior demolition, like, so
Yeah.
altering especially the street side.
Well, I'm talking stone wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there
I mean,
is,
I know there's areas in Salem where, you know, for instance, that, you know, color of paint and everything is controlled. It's like you can't paint your house
Pink.
anything other than
Yeah.
these approved, um, you know, historically accurate
Yeah.
colors. You know, there's a lot of things, but those are all
those are
mostly
probably local.
enforced. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're mostly enforced on like main thoroughfares, you know,
Correct.
main streets. It's not, you know, every back neighborhood in the place has those same rules there,
I mean,
but
if they wanted to paint the church purple, they probably could. I
Right
don't
now.
think, right now, you know.
yeah, there's no rule. We could have,
Right. I don't know if
Everything.
anyone would like it.
I don't know, we
But they
argued
could do
about
it.
the painting the ceiling within the sanctuary.
It's their right, though. I mean,
They
it's,
had to be voted on, yeah.
you know, ultimately, I'd like to see that, you know, the stuff is going to be self-selecting. It's more to have something to bring you know, to bring
and that's
bring
exactly what it
bring
is,
it
yeah.
to thought.
Yeah,
You know,
and nothing
just-
says, you know, everything in these documents that I've read, you know, if it's a safety issue, things of that nature, you know, that's up to the building department and, you know, those things. But, I mean, to try to pursue a delay, I think would probably be a good idea if we can figure out how to do it, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing set in stone that says it's not gonna, it's just, let's take a look at it.
Do we
Is
know,
there something else
do
that,
we know what buildings
can
are
do with the
considered
building, you
historic
Well,
as far as,
it can be by the age of the house.
could be by the age of the house, could be by, you know, a historically significant person or a business.
what
I
have
think
they
all things.
designated in town here? When they went through some of these districts, do you know what buildings? It's like, you know, just down the street here was a safe house for John Hancock.
Oh, yeah,
You know, that's a historic thing.
of course.
The church as such, as well as the Manchog Baptist Church, which was an outreach from,
So like National Historic or Registered Historic Places would be significant in Lunenburg. Local Registry of Historic Places, significant in Lunenburg. Architecture, style, method of building, construction, things like that. Let me look at 100-year-old structure in Sturbridge. Same thing, National Historic Register, local historic register. Building is importantly associated with one or more historic persons or events, or agricultural, cultural, political, or economic. It's basically whatever the town wants. So,
You can even, instead of saying an age of house, you could say any structure built prior to 1950 needs to be checked off that historic has looked at it, kind of thing.
right.
and I think alls it's saying is, you know, like I said, Lunenburg, unless you're gonna tear it down entirely, you can do what you want with it. Whereas Sturbridge, you know, if you're ripping off the top floor, they might wanna take a look, you know, so. That's kind of, I don't know, that's what I can gather from it. But I think it's worth
yeah, you
looking
know,
into
and
it
I think
further and.
Yeah, I think we just have to come up with, you know, what we think is a good idea for the town.
Yep.
Put, you know, you know, have some kind of a statement of you know, what, you know, how it benefits, or what benefits there could be. And, you know, ultimately it has to be presented and voted on in the town meeting, so, for it to become a reality, but,
Lucky town, they get the best and brightest working on this.
So I know, and, I know we've tried it in the past, but, unfortunately, nobody
Failed
here.
miserably.
We no longer have people that were involved in it, on the board.
There's public interest.
So, but,
Well, clearly not gonna make the May meeting.
no. No, because, I think if we want to stand a chance, we have to really have our ducks in a row.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, and,
So that kind of falls back to what we believe the goals are of it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what can we present as,
So the goals of it would then kind of help us pick some of the criteria.
Yeah.
Like I would personally think that one of the goals would be to maintain the agricultural, pastoral context of the town, if that makes, if those three words go together in that way. Which is probably most structures built pre-1950-ish. Because after 1950, you got the return of World War II. That's when you start getting those post-war neighborhoods, which at this point, after 80 years, is also, you could consider like, well, that's significant. A significant event caused that.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful not to limit things though, too,
Yeah.
because, we have significant parts of Sutton that are mill villages, and, so you've got industrial stuff, not necessarily just agricultural pastoral, so we don't wanna pigeonhole anything. It's gotta cover, everything that is part of Sutton proper.
Historic feel of all
The
things.
historic feel on some of that is the Industrial Revolution. There it is.
So we're in an interesting point in that this town has aspects of everything. Whereas, you look at, Lexington, Concord, or Salem, Salem's got its maritime and Puritan,
sure.
backings. Lexington, Concord obviously is significant, Revolutionary War trappings, things along that line.
Plus the, Thoreau and Longfellow that followed up after that.
So we've got a little bit of everything happening in our little town.
So, well, that's all I had with this anyway. I mean, I don't,
So I guess we need to define our next step.
yeah, so let's, more homework?
So we have the boilerplate.
Yep.
Somebody suggested to me, down in Wilkes, on Route 122 and Buttonwood Ave, there's a building that used to be a Dudley Shuttle Shop. That's another industrial thing, again, but it was over, 150 years ago type thing. And it had been working, they had been using that building up until, I say, 20 years ago type thing for making things. And to look into for the register, as far as that goes, especially if we have to go down and do Wilkes, that would be another one on there. Take suggestions from other people, what they think.
Do you have an address for that? Did you say?
No, I
any?
don't have an address on that. I just can tell you where it is. It's right on that corner in the peak. As you go down 122 and you get off of Buttonwood Ave, it's on your left-hand side. It's a little recessed off the road a bit.
Does the front almost look like a loading dock?
Mm-hmm.
it's like, is that a porch or a loading dock?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes, you're right, exactly, exactly.
I think I know which structure you mean.
I mean, when you go by there, I'm sure you'll see and say, that's what she's talking about, yeah.
So, it'll be worth checking to see if it's already recorded.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if I can figure out an address, I can look it up and,
I'm sorry, I don't know the
no, that's
address.
okay. I know where it is. Google Maps is my friend, so. And, I can at least see if it's in the state's database, if it's already been recorded. It seems like something that somebody would have latched on to earlier with, when it's within the same class of a lot of things that have already been registered. By Donna and her.
Well, that group
Her
there went
peers.
through a lot of stuff, so,
Right.
She had the knowledge, I'm sorry she's not here to educate us.
I know.
I will see if I can find that in the existing state stuff.
Maybe we move on to new business. Is there any new business?
Well, I think,
We covered the new business, basically, I think.
well, in covering our old business, we gave
We
ourselves
gave ourselves some new business, yeah. So,
So,
new business is
The only thing
more demo delay.
we didn't cover in old business is the letter, which I did nothing about.
okay.
Letter regarding Shaw Barn.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think we can move on to announcements and correspondence.
Okay, of which we have one,
Mm-hmm.
which is,
We have a museum dedication.
yes, which dovetails on to
Yep.
Pastor Don here.
Yep.
But that was an invitation that we received for,
You are cordially invited to the dedication of the Legacy Church History Museum, 659 Central Turnpike, Sutton, Saturday, May 10th, 2025. And there's an agenda, opening remarks, open house, come and learn the history of the area. Enjoy 18th and 19th century refreshments. And that's thanks to Pastor Don.
Sounds good,
I mentioned it's 2 or 2:30?
2:30.
2?
Yep.
2 o'clock start?
2 to 4. Yep. So, thank you.
and that's it for announcements,
Announcements and
correspondence that came through our mailbox.
And,
I thought I had more, but they belonged in other mailboxes.
Oh. Our mailbox is empty again.
I will say that my son and I went Saturday to Lincoln, Lexington, and
Oh, did you?
was amazing. It was, we didn't do the Lexington Green, that was a little too early for us, but we did do Bloody Angle and Parker's Revenge, and it was really good. Really, the amount of reenactors were
Yeah, it's something to see out there.
mind-blowing,
Yeah. Battle
including
Road.
a Sutton-born John LeClaire. I got to see him in his garb, and as he was portraying a grandfather evacuating ahead of the battle. So it's pretty good, pretty good. Beautiful day, great day.
Yeah, you did.
Guess we are looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I can put that forth. Motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned.
We need a gavel.
I'm no good at this. You're doing the next one.
Is that one yours?
You want to keep it? You can look through this stuff too if you want.
That was Mark. I actually want to read that a little bit more, if you don't mind, Mark.
Did you want to poke through some of these?
We can put that in there.
Yeah.
I saw the map. Did you post that, Matt? Or did we have that last time?
I printed